Have you ever questioned why it seems like your mother is always upset with you? Do you think an unseen power is preventing you from getting close to your mother? The opponent you never saw coming should have been your greatest ally, but you've spent your life fighting conflicts you did see because you believed the true threats were waiting outside your door. The person who brought you into the world is the source of a hidden battleground within the secure confines of your house, where love and support ought to be unrestricted. The one who ought to be raising you upward, not the outside world, opposes your attempts to ascend, because your mother, whom you once had complete faith in, is the one causing the wounds. This conflict is more profound than any other. These are not merely miscommunications or arguments. They have their roots in something much darker. The goal here is not to generalize about all mothers. The sad truth that occasionally, the person who gave you life also attempts to take away your spirit is what it's all about. You were raised with the idea that your mother would be your best defender and the one person who would always look out for you. The reality, however, is much worse. Many mothers never grow into the position that life has thrown at them because they are stuck in a never-ending stage of adolescence. They treat you as the object of their annoyance, jealousy, and unresolved rage rather than as their child, and they strike out instead. You and innumerable others have witnessed it. A mother who constantly criticizes her child, undermines their accomplishments, and saps their soul. This is a pandemic, not a singular occurrence. Numerous people I've spoken with have suffered from the silent torment of a poisonous mother. They talk of growing up in households where affection was given as a reward for compliance and withheld as a penalty for independence. They remember being made fun of for their aspirations, tormented by the thought of their mother's unrealized potential, and tricked into thinking they were the issue. These tales are not unique. In far too many homes, they are the standard. This conduct goes beyond simple cruelty. It's a mental illness that passes for motherhood. Despite their deep wounds, many mothers choose to cast their suffering onto the exact individuals they are supposed to be protecting rather than seeking healing. They seem to be trapped in a perverse version of emotional Russian roulette, where you are always the one who gets hit. Under the pretense of care, they ruin your accomplishments, erode your self-esteem, and keep you apart from the outside world. And it descends even further into darkness for some. In an attempt to exert control, some women have resorted to drastic methods, such as using witchcraft, casting charms, and hurling curses at their own children. They try to tie you to their suffering by reaching into the most sinister facets of the spiritual world. This goes beyond simple jealousy. They are deliberate actions in a psychological battle that has been going on since your birth. The relationship you previously believed to be impenetrable is the battlefield, and your entire soul is at risk. Although the facts are harsh, it is indisputable that some mothers are more than merely toxic. They pose a threat. You are aware of how envy hurts, how it consumes, but you never imagined seeing your own mother's eyes mirror it. Jealousy is more than a passing feeling. The basis of a relationship may be consumed by this inferno, and the betrayal is tremendous when it comes from the one who gave you life. Jealousy is a strong emotion among women, and it may turn into a destructive storm when it shows up in the mother-child bond. The same things that ought to make her proud, your accomplishments and success, might instead stoke a bitter, profound envy. Many women find it intolerable to watch their kids, particularly their sons or girls, excel in areas where they failed. Your victories turn into a mirror reflecting their shortcomings, a continual reminder of the routes they chose not to follow and the hopes they allowed to fade. And they start to be angry with you for your successes rather than applauding them. They recognize in you the potential they once possessed but never fulfilled. And that insight spirals into something more sinister. I've witnessed it repeatedly. Children who have achieved success, whether it be through great enterprises, good occupations, or just securing a stable, contented life, become the objects of their mother's jealousy. You might have believed that you were paying tribute to your mother's efforts by doing more. Instead, you're enmeshed in a war that goes unspoken. Your house, work, and happiness serve as constant reminders to her of the life she never had and what might have been. She views your accomplishment as a personal insult rather than a win that is shared by everybody. She chose a different route and made different decisions, and now she views your life as an indictment of her own. The person who ought to be your greatest supporter becomes your fiercest adversary, sabotaging you at every opportunity, questioning your accomplishments, and attempting to drag you back down to her level of comfort. It goes beyond jealousy. It's a last-ditch effort to get back the authority she believes you took away from her. Your finest achievements end up being used against you in this perverted dynamic. And the one person you believed would always be there for you, your mother, turns out to be the mastermind behind your most serious injuries. You sense the unrelenting hold of a mother who thinks she is the center of everything, including your tale, and who feels like the world revolves around her. Being narcissistic is more than just a psychological trait. It's a voracious force that eats up everything in its path, including your potential. Love and respect are not the only things that narcissistic mothers desire. They insist on having authority over all facets of your life. They don't stop at just directing you. They must mold you into a reflection of themselves, making you go through the same cycles of regret, negativity, and failure that they have. To preserve their sense of power, the idea that they still have control over your fate, they want you to be stuck in the same patterns. However, the mask comes off the moment you begin to break free. Forge your own path, live freely, and experience success according to your own standards. Their affection turns into animosity. Their pride turns into bitterness. They hate you for succeeding where they failed, and for having the audacity to leave the prison they constructed for you. This isn't how things naturally work, where kids develop and eventually outstrip their parents. Their very identity is under danger because of this. Your achievement serves as a clear challenge to their dominance and a reminder that their power was never as complete as they thought. You're not expected to succeed where they failed, according to their perverted viewpoint. You should continue their legacy of limits rather than surpass them. You should be an extension of them. However, they respond when you break the cycle of negative they've attempted to impose and refuse to be constrained by their failure. They strike out, attempting to pull you back into the shadows they live in. They view your independence as a violation of the narcissistic dream they have created, rather than as an indication of your development. The toxic paradox is that mothers, who are meant to support and help you become your greatest self, end up being the same thing you need to get over. They perceive your independence as a rejection of all they hold dear, and your potential as a danger. Consequently, the cycle persists. A struggle for authority, a conflict over one's permitted identity. You have witnessed her deftly manipulating every circumstance to keep her hold on your life, and twisting reality with a delicacy that verges on brilliance. This goes beyond simple overprotectiveness. It's a deliberate control effort, a poisonous trap meant to keep you small and entangle you in a web of dependency. She is more aware of your shortcomings than anyone else, and she has no problem taking advantage of them. She intervenes, not with encouragement, but with sabotage. The instant you begin to rise and forge a life that is exclusively yours. I've worked with clients who have experienced this agony and who have seen their own mothers attempt to take away all of the achievements they have fought so hard to achieve. Her whispers poisoned relationships that could have blossomed. Her machinations destroyed friendships that could have saved lives, because their mothers couldn't stand to watch their children excel. as parents when they had failed. Some have even lost custody of their own children. It's an incomprehensible brutality, yet it's all too real. Think about the client who struggled with alcoholism and worked daily to free herself from the bottle's hold on her life. Under the pretense of leisure, her mother would conveniently load the house with her daughter's favorite drink rather than providing support. It wasn't goodwill. Link by link, it was a chain designed to keep her daughter reliant and make sure she never emerged from the specter of addiction. Or the customer who battled weight loss and eventually started to make headway, only to have her mother bake her favorite pastries every weekend and force them on her with the unrelenting demands of someone who understands just how to get to the heart of the matter. These were not loving deeds. The purpose of these acts of sabotage was to prevent her daughter from becoming independent, which would have put her mother's authority in jeopardy. A mother who would rather see you fail and be under her control than prosper and elude her is the toxic trap. She manipulates because she fears that your success will make her obsolete and that your independence will highlight her shortcomings, not because she cares. In order to keep you in the position she has always known, under her, she tightens the noose, stoking your vices and impeding your advancement. You've been there, hurt, broken, and wondering where it all went wrong due to the unexplainable breakdown of relationships that looked destined for greatness. However, what if your misery sprang from more than just misfortune or bad decisions? What if the person who ought to be wishing you well was actually sowing the seeds of strife in the background? You experience the pleasure of connection when you first start dating someone new, only to watch it strangely fall apart. The relationships you're forming begin to erode. The trust starts to erode. Soon after, you find yourself standing among the ruins, alone and bewildered. Your mother is one of the voices speaking poison into the ears of people you care about behind the scenes. The person who ought to be your staunchest ally has turned into the mastermind behind your pain. She speaks behind your back, converting facts into fiction, raising questions about your morality, and escalating your partner's fears. She's just a worried parent to them. She undermines your enjoyment with every remark, but to you, she is a saboteur. She portrays you as erratic, untrustworthy, or worse, undeserving of the affection you're trying to find. She makes sure that no relationship can bear the strain of her manipulations by doing this. It's deliberate, not merely passive. She understands just what to do to get your partner to doubt everything, including the basis of your relationship. She might be hinting that you're not as dedicated as you appear to be, or that you've been known to ignore people. Her words are intended to poison and undermine the trust you have worked so hard to earn, even though they are disguised as care. She is there when the relationship ultimately fails, not with consolation, but with a smug sense of accomplishment, as though she has shown herself that no one else can have you except her. A mother who can't stand to see you happy and find love and companionship outside of her influence is the envy of your relationships. The idea that someone else could occupy a space in your heart that she previously claimed as her own makes her envious, not just of your lovers. She views your joy as a betrayal, and your love for someone else as a challenge to the authority she has worked so hard to establish. She thus ruins what she is unable to have, leaving you to repeatedly pick up the pieces and wonder why every relationship you come into contact with seems doomed. In actuality, the curse belongs to her and not to you. At last, you made the decision to take charge of your life and mend the wounds that have been lingering for too long. You've turned to spirituality in an effort to find harmony and serenity in a world that frequently seems unfriendly and chaotic. However, something pulls you back just as you begin to feel the weight leave your shoulders and the light starts to shine through the shadows. Your body betrays you in ways it has never done before when you are suddenly ill. Like a vice, fatigue consumes your energy and makes even the most basic chores seem impossible. Unknown mishaps occur as though the cosmos is working against you. However, you know deep inside that this is her and not the cosmos at all. She has always been there, monitoring your every move while hiding in the shadows. The one person who ought to be your strongest ally, your mother, is the cause of your pain. She doesn't want you to develop, heal, or find peace, since doing so would challenge the authority she has held onto throughout your life. You are now the focus of something much more sinister, her malicious intent, than just her resentment. To keep you bound to the suffering she has created, she has resorted to supernatural forces like spells and evil energies. She cannot let your spiritual development, since it directly challenges the authority she has over you. Her spells aren't merely superstitions, they're expressions of her wrath and a last-ditch effort to force you to follow her warped interpretation of reality. She tries to corrupt your spirit as you're trying to purify it, pulling you back into the darkness she lives in. She fears losing you, but not because she loves you. Be afraid that without her, you'll find a strength, freedom, and strength that renders her insignificant and helpless. Every obstacle you encounter, every unexplained sickness or mishap, is her hand at work. Her frantic attempt to regain control that she feels is evaporating. Her nightmare is your recovery. It serves as a reminder that she can no longer control how you live. But you are more powerful than she knows, more powerful than the darkness she carries. There is no spell or curse that can take away the inner tranquility you have experienced. Her hatred is proof of your strength, your development, and your unavoidable triumph. No one, not even her, can take away your right to follow the road, even though it may be dangerous. The reality eventually shatters the delusions you've been living under, much like the crack of dawn after a long, oppressive night. This is your awakening, the point at which you realize with agonizing clarity that the person who was supposed to be your guide and protector has actually been your worst adversary all along. As God himself draws back the curtain, revealing the deceit, manipulation, and web of falsehoods built around you by the person who gave birth to you, the knowledge strikes you like a bolt of heavenly lightning. This realization is more than a fleeting epiphany. It's a tidal wave that erases all of your doubts and justifications for her brutality, leaving only the harsh, indisputable reality. Not everyone is given this revelation by God. The ones who are destined for greatness and for a purpose that goes beyond the norm are the ones he reveals it to. You are more than a mere kid. Since the beginning, the darkness within her has been threatened by the light that you are. The power changes when you become aware of this reality. You are no longer the puppet in her perverse drama, the victim of her sneaky manipulation, no longer bound by the poisonous force that has attempted to keep you small, reliant, and in her shadow. You take control of your own fate. The things that have made her jealous and resentful are the very things that are fueling your development, your success, and your independence. They are the indications that you are liberating yourself from the constraints she attempted to place on you. Each accomplishment you make and each stride you take on your own path is a nail in the coffin of the authority she formerly possessed over you. The minute you take back your life, your identity, and your purpose is when the power shift occurs. You're doing more than just getting by. You're doing well. And she becomes desperate as a result of that very thriving. Now, however, you recognize it for what it is, a projection of her own shortcomings and fears onto you. She loses control over you as you grow and become the complete version of yourself that you were always meant to be. This is your awakening, your time to rise above her and live not just despite her, but against all of her efforts to hold you down. No one, not even her, can take away the brightness that God has placed within of you, because you are chosen, You could feel the constant strain, the unseen burden pulling you down as you started to rise. However, this goes beyond a string of regrettable incidents or the normal ups and downs of life. No, this is something much darker. The devil doesn't waste time on distant adversaries or strangers. He targets those closest to you, those who are aware of your concerns and aspirations, as well as your strengths and vulnerabilities. And your mother is the one who understands you the best. She is manipulated by the devil, who turns the bond that ought to be sacrosanct into a weapon that attacks the core of your success. This is not your typical dispute. Spiritual warfare is what this is. The devil's strategies are sneaky not because he targets you with overt foes, but rather because he utilizes those you love and trust to undermine you. He knows you can easily brush off a blow from a stranger, but from your own mother. That causes severe wounds that, if they heal at all, do so slowly. The devil takes advantage of this closeness to create the ideal traps by exploiting her understanding of you. Traps intended to undermine your self-confidence, weaken your will, and prevent you from realizing your destiny as a member of the chosen. You see it now, though, because the first step to liberation is seeing. Your awareness serves as your shield in this spiritual conflict. The devil's attacks are constant, therefore you need to remain alert and aware. Just because you know his game, he won't stop. He will actually go all out, employing every ruse and strategy to drag you back into the shadows. However, you are not helpless. Your best weapon is your spiritual vigilance, or your relationship with the divine. You need to defend yourself, strengthen your soul, and resist the negative forces that want to bring you down. Your strength will be put to the test, and your actual power will be exposed here. The biggest fear of the devil is that you may discover your own potential and escape the bonds he has attempted to bound you with. It's time to defend yourself now that you know the truth. Those who ought to love you were not meant to subjugate you. You were created with the intention of rising, conquering, and achieving your predetermined destiny. Continue to be spiritually alert. Take precautions against these harmful impacts. Remember that you are not fighting this war alone. God is on your side, and victory is in your destiny. Not all mothers use their power as a weapon, you know. Numerous people provide love, courage, and steadfast support. However, it's important to recognize the harm that has been done to individuals who experience the pain of betrayal from the person who ought to have been their strongest ally. You cannot afford to downplay or ignore the poisonous practices that have hampered your development and well-being. Whether motivated by control, envy, or something more sinister, your mother's actions have influenced your life in ways you're only now starting to comprehend. Now that you have insight, though, you need to face reality and regain your proper authority. In your everyday life, you've witnessed the consequences, the inexplicable setbacks, the unjustifiable breakups of relationships, and the persistent sense that something is preventing you from moving forward. There is more to this than coincidence. It is the outcome of a conscious, frequently unintentional attempt to prevent you from soaring above. However, you have the chance to break free now that you see the patterns and comprehend the why behind the how. You have the ability to alter the narrative that has been forced upon you and change your own story. Now is the time for you to act and enter the light that has always been beckoning. Don't let these things define who you are. Rather, use them as motivation to change yourself. Your narrative is compelling. In addition to healing oneself, sharing it gives others the strength to confront their own inner struggles. Don't keep quiet if you've experienced this, or if the effects of this poisonous influence are still weighing on you. Tell anyone who might be caught in the same loop about this. People who need to know they are not alone. Thanks for watching.